And recording in progress. So let's get this party started. Michael, I'm giving you the floor. I'm going on mute and I'm going to click share on your presentation. Everyone, thank you for being here and let's get started.
Dawn, I'm hearing an echo.
You got to put me on mute on your phone, I think.
Okay. Sounds like the echo went. Any echo now?
I don't hear. Does anyone else hear an echo? Or can you say, can anyone?
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Can you hear an echo? Are you hearing me good?
All right.
Okay, I'm good. All right, excellent. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Our apologies for the technical difficulties. It is what it is. We've all been existing in this world of technology for a while now, so we're used to it. But by way of a brief introduction, I'm Michael K. Jackson with the U.S. Commercial Service. I'm so happy to be here today with you all. First and foremost, I want to thank the team at the EDAC for putting together this webinar. Kamalia, who we have with us, running the tech and running interference as well. Omar, Mohammed, Don, Tucker, and the entire team. Thank you all for putting this on. And thank you all to the attendees this afternoon that are with us live for attending. And thank you for listening to the recording afterwards if you're listening as well. Without further ado, next slide, please, Kamalia. Just by way of quick introduction, again, Michael K. Jackson, no relation, if you're wondering. Been with the U.S. Commercial Service almost 2 years now, but certainly no stranger to supporting small businesses like yourselves and venturing off into exporting. 15-year career with the federal government and specifically in export assistance. Prior 10 years, I spent at Exim Bank, and prior to that, I was with the SBA right here in Baltimore, supporting small business exporters. So no stranger to this space, and have a long career. Y'all see the bio. Just note that I I am excited about supporting you on your exporting journey, starting with this webinar. Kamalia. So I'd like to know though, if you all could put in the chat yes or no really quickly, if you are familiar with the U.S. Commercial Service, if you've used us before, just put a quick N or Y for yes or no. Just let me know who we have in the audience. Okay, I saw a couple of no's so far. One yes, couple of no's. Majority no. Okay, great. So this presentation will be great for you all who are not familiar with the U.S. Commercial Service. I'll provide an overview of who we are, how we can assist you as you learn about exporting into overseas markets as you grow your company. So the U.S. Commercial Service is the export promotion arm of the U.S. Department of Commerce's International Trade Administration. We're one component of the ITA, and we are the export promotion component of the ITA. We are basically a global organization, and you'll see in a second on the map that I show exactly just how global we are. So we are global as we attempt to take you all global. We're represented in over 100 locations domestically and over 70 countries internationally as well. And our services, types of assistance kind of fit into 4 buckets, if you will: export counseling, market intelligence, business, matchmaking, and commercial diplomacy. And I'll talk about each one of those buckets in greater detail as we go along. Next slide. So I mentioned, we are global as we take you global. Again, we're located in over 100 cities here in the United States and also over 70 countries globally. And my counterparts overseas are located in embassies and consulates in foreign countries. Next slide. Just to further illustrate, there are basically roughly 280 of me across the country. I believe the vast majority of you are joining from here in Maryland, but just in case you're not, again, we're over 100 and odd some odd cities across the country, and we have 1,200 officers located around the globe that are at your service. Next slide. So how we deliver our services, how we support you, we pretty much support you in every cycle of your growth in terms of this exporting international trade game. At the very beginning, we help you develop your export strategy. We help you do background checks on potential partners. We match you with potential partners overseas. We provide you, along with my counterparts overseas, counseling in terms of specific markets that you're looking to penetrate. We help you promote your product overseas. We help you understand the export regulations and compliance intricacies of doing business internationally. And then finally, we have trade shows and trade missions happening pretty much every day of the year that you can actually attend and find potential partners overseas. And again, I'll go in depth into each of one of those these services and each section of the life cycle as we go. Next slide. There are a ton of free research that you can do on your own, information out there. If you haven't gone to trade.gov yet, highly advise you to do that. There's a ton of resources and research that you can do on your own there, and various publications that you can kind of dig into to explore for yourself, particularly if you're at the very beginning stage of your export journey. Kamala, you can change slides. Thank you. So let's dig into each one of those buckets. So you heard me mention export counseling. From the very beginning, we kind of come alongside you and provide you with reliable information with regards to the next steps on your export journey. One of the things that we do well is actually team up with our counterparts overseas, and jump on a call with our counterparts overseas who have specific market knowledge in their particular markets and in their particular industries, because the way we're broken down kind of over here domestically mirrors how we're broken down internationally as well. So you heard me mention I represent the Baltimore office of U.S. Commercial Service. Each trade specialist has responsibility for a particular set of industry verticals. I have various, including financial services, energy, food and beverage, and various others. And that's the way we're kind of set up overseas as well. So based on the industry that you're in, we would provide counseling, specific counseling concerning your product and service and how to kind of navigate, if you will. A specialized type of counseling that we provide also for those of you who might be doing business, kind of e-commerce heavy via your website. We have an e-commerce innovation lab that's a part of the commercial service as well, where we provide advice and counseling in terms of how to internationalize your website. We have something called a website a globalization review, where we kind of do a gap analysis on your website, provide you recommendations as to how to best position your website, including all the technical stuff on the back end to help position you and your company and your company's website for success, particularly if you're focusing on e-commerce. So just to make a note of that. Okay, next slide, please, Kamalia. Market intelligence. So, one of the things we provide to you is market intelligence. On one of the other slides, I told you that there's a ton of research that you can do on your own via trade.gov. One of the publications we have on trade.gov is called the Country Commercial Guides. And it's there's a guide on over 125 countries. Our specialists within the ITA actually put these industry reports together, and it gives you in-depth information on doing business in the kind of the business environment, the political environment, the regulatory environment in all of these countries. So if you're thinking about doing business in, for example, Brazil, this is a Brazil country commercial guide that provides you in-depth information on that specific market. Another service we have is that falls within the market intelligence realm is an initial market check. So before we get into any of the paid services that I'll talk about in a second, in terms of matchmaking, we can do an initial market check to see if there's to kind of gauge the interest in a specific market for your product or service. So the way that works is we kind of I work hand in hand with my colleagues overseas. They kind of put out feelers to various potential partners overseas, and there is feedback that comes back from up to potentially 5 potential partners to see if there's great interest, moderate interest, if there's any interest at all in your product or service before we go running to try to match you with potential partners. So that's the initial market check. There's an international company profile where, okay, so you've kind of found a potential partner that you want to do business with, but you really don't know them from Adam, right? The international company profile, or ICP, is basically, it provides you with a comprehensive background report on a specific company overseas. And it gives you information on key officials, the credit worthiness, et cetera. And for the full ICP, we even do actually go physically visit that company to see if it's actually legit or not. Okay. There's also a kind of scaled down version of the ICP that's a little less intensive and also less expensive as well. And then there's customized market research, that our folks overseas can potentially do for you as well if you're looking for some specific information in a particular market. Kamalia, next slide. Business matchmaking. Now, folks, this is kind of our bread and butter, if you will, in terms of the assistance that we provide here at the commercial service. We match you with potential partners, buyers, distributors overseas, depending on your business model. And we make those connections for you such that you can actually expand into those markets. So specifically, we have a service called the International Partner Search. And I'll even talk about the International Partner Search plus virtual introduction, where we provide you a list of up to 5 potential agents, distributors, partners in a particular market. You heard me mention about that initial market check. So the initial market check will go out and kind of test the market to see if there's interest. Well, the International Partner Search plus virtual introduction, we've established there's interest, and we can find you up to 5 potential partners and actually facilitate a virtual introduction, just like we're here on this virtual meeting today, this webinar. It'll actually be a one-on-one meeting with you via Microsoft Teams with up to 5 potential partners. IPS Plus, as we call it, came into heavy use during COVID, when nobody could really travel overseas. But now things have opened back up, and we can travel. Traditionally, historically, one of our most popular services at the commercial services, that Gold Key service, where much like the IPS Plus, where we actually match you with up to 5 potential partners virtually, with the Gold Key, you actually travel to the country and actually sit down for these pre-scheduled meetings that we actually arrange for you. So, we're kind of doing all the upfront legwork in terms of finding the potential partners for you. We're actually bringing you together with them in country for you to meet with them, and then you can, decide and determine if this is a potential, if one of these 5, let's say, potential partners is a good fit for you. Okay. There are a plethora of services. The one other one I'd mention here is our single company promotion, where this allows you to, if you wanted to do a seminar or any kind of promotional event to kind of showcase your product or service overseas, we can arrange that for you. Oftentimes is at the ambassador's residence or some other schwanky location in country. We heavily promote it and attract your kind of your potential audience, your target audience to that event, so that such that you can showcase your product or service. Okay. Next slide, Kamalia. Trade events. You heard me mention early on that there are trade events going on literally every day, multiple times a day, folks. 2 of our flagship trade events that we put on personally is Discover Global Markets, or DGM, and Trade Winds. Trade Winds is trade mission overseas. And actually, we have one coming up next month that's focused on Southeast Asia. Trade Winds is typically focused on a geographic area. Last year's was focused on the Middle East, and we actually, I've heard it termed a gold key on steroids, because we actually bring in commercial diplomats, my counterparts from overseas, to this particular location. We invite business delegations to come in, foreign government delegations to come in, and actually provide you matchmaking, breakout sessions, informational sessions, and so forth at the Gold Key. And typically it's multiple countries, so you can visit multiple countries during trade winds and it's a good kind of follow on from, say, for example, you did an IPS Plus and you say, well, I met these folks virtually. Now I want to actually meet them personally. Trade winds is a good forum for that. Discover Global Markets, on the other side, is actually a domestic business forum that we put on once a year as well. And it's typically in the fall. Trade winds is typically in the spring. And DGM, Discover Global Markets, typically in the fall, and it's typically industry focused. So last year, it was focused on the blue economy. It was up in Rhode Island, and again, we have commercial diplomats that come from parts all over the globe that actually facilitate workshops, one-on-one meetings with potential partners from overseas, and you get a chance to discuss specific market intel with my counterparts from overseas as well. And then, that's not even to mention all the various trade shows and trade fairs that are going on domestically here in the United States that we have a partnership with the trade show organizer. So there's a commercial service presence and a U.S. Pavilion at these shows, both domestically and internationally, that you can come to and actually participate in the various business to business and business to government meetings as well. I'll mention one plug for a show that's actually coming up here in Baltimore called the International Partnering Forum that's focused around offshore wind. That's happening actually next month. So if anybody's interested in the offshore wind industry, I highly encourage you to attend IPF. They're a participant in what's called our trade event promotion program, where we actually partner with the organizer to, again, bring commercial diplomats from overseas, bring large delegations, business delegations from various countries overseas that you can actually meet with right here in the United States without having to travel overseas as well. Okay, that's trade events. Next slide, please, Kamali. Commercial diplomacy. So we advocate on your behalf, and we always speak about commercial diplomacy in a sense of, we call it big A advocacy and little a advocacy. So big A advocacy is done via our advocacy center that's located in our Washington, D.C. headquarters, where we advocate on your behalf as a U.S. business that's competing against foreign competitors for foreign government contracts. Many of you might be familiar and are already pursuing U.S. government contracts, but we actually help advocate on your behalf when you are competing for foreign government business. Okay, and often sometimes if it's more than one U.S. business involved, then we'll provide general advocacy for U.S. businesses. But if it's you alone competing against a foreign competitor, we'll actually advocate specifically for your company as well. That's big A advocacy. Now, little A advocacy, we can advocate on your behalf if you are encountering a trade barrier, for example, with a country that we already have a trade agreement with. So we would kind of plug you in to our trade agreements and negotiations compliance office, to where they would actually help you and advocate on your behalf for to challenge any inconsistencies with countries not adhering to their trade agreements, for example. And then trade dispute resolution. An example of this would be if you have, and this is a real life example of mine. I have a client that entered into a contract with a foreign government. The government is kind of slow in paying that client, as governments are known to do. And we were able to advocate on behalf of that client with that government. And once they see that the kind of U.S. government is behind you as a company, and this is on all our services, this is just working with us in general. That's one of the benefits of having the U.S. government behind you, in that we can send that government a letter saying, hey, we're advocating on behalf of XYZ company, and don't you know what was slow pay turns into a quick pay. So that's just a few examples of how we can advocate for you on your behalf. Kamalia? Now, some of the fees that I talked about, our counseling is free or no cost to you. But some of these services that I talked about do have, nominal cost to them. For example, the initial market check is $350. The gold key is $950. Single company promotion is based on the amount of work that's done by the overseas post. It's kind of varies, but all of our fees are on our website. You can see the link there. So everything is kind of, completely, totally transparent. And as you can see, these are what's listed here are prices for small business. It's broken down by small, medium, and large. I'm assuming everyone here is a small business, because that's who we're speaking to. That's who we're targeting. But yeah, everything is out in the open here for you, and it's much less expensive than if you were to, say, hire a consultant to do some of these things. Next slide. And let me talk a little about kind of zoom out on a more macro level now and talk about why exports matter, right? I've talked about some of our services and how we can assist you, but exports matter. If you've never attended a webinar that's promoting small business exports before, one of the reasons why exports matter is because the world's 70% of the world's purchasing power lies outside of the United States, right? So if you are not at least entertaining the idea of offering your products and services internationally, you're leaving a whole lot of the pie, if you will, on the table. Next slide. In terms of comparisons with other countries, we got a lot of work to do here in the U.S. Only 11% of U.S. GDP is represented or generated by exports. Now, we do have going for us is that we have the largest single economy on this map that you see here on the globe. I think it's like $23 trillion economy. So we understand the fact that, you want to focus traditionally businesses want to focus on the domestic market and sometimes don't even feel the need to have to go overseas or look overseas because, we have a $23 trillion economy here. So as a small business owner, you might be saying things are good. Things might be good, right? But I highly encourage you to look beyond the shores of the United States, because what's not represented here is 95% of the world's consumers is outside the United States. So most of the purchasing power is outside the United States. Most of the consumers are outside the United States. So as big of an economy as we have, the opportunities are global, folks. The opportunities are global. Hence why we're doing this webinar. Next slide. So some results for small businesses. Exporting can be a profitable endeavor for businesses of all sizes, but even more so for small businesses like yourselves. Next slide. 2.2 million. That's the average annual revenue increase reported by commercial service clients, which represents a 7% increase last fiscal year. So exporting pays, y'all. Exporting pays. Next slide. Companies that export grow faster and they are less likely to go out of business. It's think about it. If you're diversifying, think about it as like an investment portfolio. You're diversifying your investments instead of just focusing, singly or wholeheartedly on the domestic market. Huge as it is, it's still only one market amongst. Remember what I said: 95% of consumers, 70% of the world's purchasing power. You diversify your income streams, if you will, as a business when you look outside the United States. So when there's, we all know that things are globally connected now, but in your particular industry, you may be experiencing a lull domestically, or the market might be saturated domestically, but there's full potential. It might be wide open in another market overseas. Just makes sense to look overseas, folks. I hope I'm getting through. I hope I'm getting through. Okay, next slide, Kamali. And these just a few quotes to help me get through to you, get the message through from some folks that we've been able to work with. I won't read them all, but I'll read this one. For a small company, we simply would not have been able to accomplish as much as we did without the U.S. Commercial Service assistance. The service provided was invaluable to us and represents a tremendous advantage for our competitiveness in the global economy. This one says, I had no idea that such superior service was available to me from the U.S. government. And some of y'all on this call today might be saying the same thing. Commercial service, I signed up for this because I never even heard of commercial service. Well, that's why we're here. That's why we're offering this webinar. Okay, next slide, Kamali. Okay, and this is just my contact information. I want to say too, you heard me mention, parts of my bio. I formerly worked at Exim Bank. I formerly worked at the SBA, which kind of comprises the three agencies that comprise the U.S. Export Assistance Center network. So you heard me mention that we're in over, we as a U.S. commercial servicer in over 100 locations here domestically. Many of those locations, we are actually co-located with the Export-Import Bank and the SBA's Office of International Trade. And those two agencies really focus on helping you with the financing. SBA has specific programs to help small businesses finance the exports. Exim Bank has similar programs. Differentiator for Exim is export credit insurance. Don't have time to get into it today. Maybe we'll do another webinar. And in fact, just a plug for our upcoming conference in April 27th, right, Kamalia? I will have a couple of colleagues from both XM and SBA, and we've invited the state of Maryland as well to participate, to provide you additional information, because the financing is critical for this. And some of y'all might be already thinking, well, okay, that small business are always worrying about how do I get paid? What if I don't get paid? There are protections in place through these government agencies that actually protect you, specifically XM, that protect you from not getting paid. Okay, state of Maryland. I want to quickly mention the Export MD grant. You heard me mention, trade missions and trade shows overseas happening every week, practically every day of every week. The Export MD grant, if you are a Maryland company, Export MD grant provides funding for you to offset the costs of going to an overseas trade show, participating in a trade mission, going on one of those gold key matchmaking appointments that I talked about earlier. Okay. And one other way that we partner here in Maryland with the Maryland Department of Commerce is that any two services that you heard me mention before, whether it be the IPS Plus or Gold Key or what have you, you get a 2/3 discount on two services per year through the state of Maryland. So, and that kind of pot of money is separate from the Export MD grant money that allows you to offset your costs from going overseas. Okay, and last but not least, and not really last, just last that I've listed here on the slide, the Maryland SBDC. So some of you, and we'll chat during the Q&A, some of you might be just beginning your export journey. Okay, I have to mention that we work with export ready companies. So perhaps you've exported accidentally to one country and you say, well, hey, I want to be a little bit more strategic about this thing, or I want to export to 2 and 3 other markets. Export ready. We work with export ready companies. If you are just beginning on your journey, just getting your company started, but you're interested in exporting, we work hand in hand with resource partners, particularly the Maryland SBDC. They have export counselors on hand that actually provide with that one-on-one counseling and training to kind of get you export ready and get you to a place where you're actually ready to work with the commercial service, work with the SBA, and work with Exim Bank. Okay, that's my contact information. I know we got a late start, but I definitely want to get to your questions. So Kamalia, hit me with the questions.
Hear me, Michael?
I sure can.
Okay, so there's going to be a double echo, everyone, because if you logged in late, there was some sort of funky thing happening with Zoom. You gotta love technology, right? That's why we need exports so people can improve these things. So Michael, you're going to hear me through the phone, but I'm going to address people's questions in the chat. I also have some questions for myself. Thank you so much for being on here. So let's get right onto it. I'm sure everyone wants to get off for their lunch hour. Michael, you have one in the chat so far, and then I'll probably ask next. Is it necessary to have your business up and running in the US before considering exporting?
So have your business up and running in the US. Okay. I would say in order to take advantage of the support that I talked about today from the US government, specifically US Commercial Service, but other agencies like I talked about, yes, because the support is for US based companies to export outside of the US.
Gotcha. Okay. So everyone, please put your messages in the chat. I will be paying attention to them, or you can raise your hand and ask directly. I am going to try and pay attention to this. I have a question as well. So when it comes to exporting services and products, I can't speak for everyone here, but I know for me, I'm thinking like big products, like, if you're going to do machinery or some sort of new innovation technology or, something of that. So I'm thinking big. So I'm curious, what kinds of products and services can people kind of, consider that this is something also for export without limiting themselves to something so grand that they can put it to where their business is if they don't think it relates to them?
Yeah, no, the full gamut, Kamalia. We support. You heard me mention some of the industry verticals I support. I work with a number of teammates that focus on other industry verticals. So we work with service companies, IT. Some of the folks here might be IT companies, service companies. One of my sectors is actually food and beverage. So I work with, there are a number of, like, for example, craft breweries here in Maryland that export their products and services internationally. So anything you could think of, and it doesn't have to be anything grandiose, like a large machinery and equipment. Oftentimes that's what we think of, but no. From small products into services, we support it all.
That's awesome. Okay, well, if anybody needs like food and beverage, I mean, hey, Michael's the one to contact. You got that email.
Absolutely.
You got another question in the chat. Does the business have to be in exporting or can it be a service industry? This person's daughter lives in Ghana and they have identified a service that they want to start.
Okay, so if the person lives in Ghana, and this might be related to the initial question about does a business have to be here in the U.S. So so again, our whole mission is to grow U.S. exports and to help U.S. businesses grow jobs here in the U.S. So there has to be a couple of stipulations. Your company does have to be located here in the United States. It can be a foreign entity as long as you have a presence here in the United States, and the product is up to 51% U.S. content, which means if it's a tangible good, the production costs have to amount to 51% or more. And those are a couple of stipulations. If you're based here, shipping from the United States to a foreign country, that qualifies. But if you are a foreign company, we certainly don't support imports into the United States, right? So if in this example, if the company is in Ghana and they're trying to ship stuff here, that's outside of our purview. If you're here and you're shipping to Ghana, then we do that all day, every day. In fact, you heard me mention about the trade shows and trade missions. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that we have a trade mission that's specifically for um, minority and women-owned businesses that's coming up this summer in August. That's geared towards Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, and South Africa. So that's something to look into for my Ghanaian friend that just asked as well.
Awesome. We got one that came in the chat. This person is in financial services. How would exporting work for that person? Is it hard to enter internationally?
I would say no, generally it's not hard, right? It might be a little bit more complicated, and it will be a little bit more complicated than doing domestic internationally, admittedly so. But yes, financial service qualifies. I work with an excellent couple of excellent financial services companies that's in the fintech space. That, again, it's not a tangible good, but there it's technology. And what counts as the export is, as long as you're getting um, providing a service and getting paid or invoiced from a foreign entity, then that qualifies as an export, as a services export.
That's awesome. Okay. Thank you. So unless anyone wants to message me directly, you have Michael's contact. I'm going to ask one more question to kind of close out. It is already at the top of the hour. I don't see any direct questions for me or in the chat. So Michael, when it comes to exporting, given that the WBE kind of focuses more on like minority, like small business entrepreneurs, sometimes, you know, branching out of the US can be very intimidating for some people. From at least what I've seen, you know, just the concept of it, the globe just seems so big, right? But you put it in such a way that it's manageable. And, you know, it seems like an opportunity for people to kind of, you know, dive into. What would you say to individuals that are still kind of on the fence, maybe wavering a little bit about whether or not they can or develop the confidence in doing so when it comes to taking their business to another level beyond the United States? Do you have any words of encouragement for those individuals?
You know, it's an old adage, it's a Nike adage, but just do it. You know, you think about what I said about the purchasing power. 70% of the world's purchasing power is outside the United States. 95% of the world's consumers are outside of the United States. And again, you know, we are here. You know, it's corny, but we're here to help as the U.S. government. You don't have to do this alone, and that's the key. That's what I want to leave you with. You don't have to do this alone. It's daunting, just the amount of information, and you know, but you have several different government agencies, and it doesn't matter which one you come through. You might come through, you know, SBA, commercial service, Exim Bank, some other agency, but the support is here. So you don't have to do this alone. That's what I want to leave with you. You don't have to do this alone. There's a ton of information. If you're just starting out, I urge you to just go to trade.gov. There's a research center there where you can, you know, start doing your own little research. There's a ton of information out there. Yes, it can be daunting, but you have, remember the map I showed you. You have all of this support right behind you. You have the entire U.S. government behind you. And you know, say what you want about the U.S. government, and you know, a lot of times the criticism is well deserved, but as it pertains to export assistance, folks, we honestly have your back. We got you.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Michael, for being with us today for the Women Veterans Initiative. Thank you all also for being with us and working with us throughout this really strange technological, you know, issue that we had.
Yes.
Again, Michael is available for direct questions. He has put his information, I put his information in the chat, and it's also available to you. These slides will not be available to you guys after this. You will have to email Michael directly. Do not come at me, okay? That was from Michael, okay? The recording will be posted on Morgan EDAC, and we also look forward to seeing you guys on the April 27th conference. So we have your information down. You'll receive a little ping from us if you want to register. If not, it's totally okay. But Michael is also going to be on that conference for becoming a triple business threat, securing the 3 C's: capital, contacts, and contracts. So guys, thank you so much for being with us today. And I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day. Michael, if you want to stay on so we can like touch base on a few things,
Sure.
I can leave you guys and you guys have a good day. Think about me when you're having lunch. I'm jealous of what you guys are going to be eating. So we look forward to engaging with you guys again. Have a great day.
Take care, everybody.
All right, I'm going to stop the recording.